This episode is brought to you by Cars Commerce, one platform to simplify everything about buying and selling cars, and one partner to empower your business. Welcome to this special Disruptive Forces in Retail Automotive episode presented by the David Spizak Show and Disruptive Growth Solutions. Welcome back. I've got a treat for you. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to, like a lot of times you hear, under promise, over deliver. I can promise you that this will over deliver. And it's because I'm joined by Michael Porro. Michael Porro, somebody who has literally been just one of the most wonderful people. I've met so many wonderful people and had the blessing of meeting so many people, working with so many great people in this industry. And Michael exemplifies that. I met Michael first probably 5 years ago or so. And ever since then, it's changed. Everything's changed. We've become really dear friends. And I've come to just admire him more and more and more. You're about to learn why. But first and foremost, so that I can get to that point, I'm going to welcome officially Michael Porro from Honda World in Louisville, Kentucky. Michael, thank you for taking the time to join me.
It's my pleasure to be here, David.
Thank you. So, Michael, we met in a conference. It's one of those things in life, where you go with intentions and then you have unintended consequences that are really wonderful sometimes. And this meeting you was really one of those things. And you and I have spoken many times about how interesting life is. You go to a conference, of course, Scott Josephs puts on that conference called Business, Bourbon, and Cigars. We've both gone quite a few times. And there's a lot of dealers that hear business, bourbon, and cigars. The only thing they're hearing is the bookends, the business and the cigars. They're thinking, right, I don't have time. I can't get out of the store. And that just sounds like a boondoggle, so I'm not going to send my people. It is literally anything but. It's a very, very serious meeting with some of the best content and best takeaways. First of all, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And David, I made some great contacts as well as lifetime friends. I was always taught growing up, my dad always told me, he said, son, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Well, when I go to Business, Bourbon, and Cigars, in spite of the horrible name of the conference, because it really doesn't add validity to the abundance of knowledge you pull out of it, I'm in the right room. Because there's, as you said, there's some very intelligent people.
I couldn't agree with you. And one of the things I love about that room, and then we're going to move on to some very specific things focused on the used car business, because that's where our mind and our focus is today, is how can we help dealers, whether they're independent operators or franchise dealers, how can we help them in a matter of one day to solve something that really seemed like a mystery to most people for decades. But before we move on, I couldn't agree with you more. I am never the smartest person in that room. And one of the things that is especially innovative is the fact that half the people in that room have never been a dealer before, never been a dealership manager. But yet, every time I walk away with not one, two, three, but countless concepts, ideas, theories, and strategies that I could go back and put in place in my business or in a dealership that are going to help them be far more successful. So on that note, let's start on innovation. Michael, why do you think that, most of us came up in this business, and we, of course, worked for a manager, then we moved up, became a manager, worked for another manager, then another manager. Each and every time, it's said that a leader is one of one, and a manager is typically a copy of another, meaning we tend to do mostly what our manager taught us. So here we are 20, 30, 40 years later in this used car business, and people continue to struggle. The vast majority of stores can't figure out how to consistently acquire cars, get most of their cars from customers or higher profit sources, and how to make profit. Speaking of that. So when we talk about innovation, why do you think it's so hard to be able to reinvent or innovate in a dealership today?
Well, David, you see my message this morning, and my morning message was failure. And I think what happens is, I think most people, most managers, leaders, look at loss as failure and failure as a loss. And the only way you can learn is by mistakes. And I think what's happened is, I think a lot of people are too conservative. They're afraid of making a mistake. They're afraid of looking outside the box. One of the things that you brought to the party with me was, I like to consider myself one of the top V-Auto dealers in the country. And, my thought pattern was, look the book. Look the book wasn't getting me the amount of vehicles that I wanted to do. One little thing you said to me was, Mike, forget about look the book. What I want you to concentrate on is appraisals. I hate to use that dirty word, but giving clients buy figures to buy their cars, whether they were going to buy my car or not. And we input immediately. I'm open-minded. I said, you know what? I'm not willing to do anything because what I'm doing right now wasn't working. And we immediately put into place. The month end was today, assigning bonuses today, and I was really happy to sign all the bonuses back in my service department because I signed a lot of bonuses. We sold 40 cars back in our service department by simply changing the language in our vehicle upgrade department. The old language was, and it's crazy because I'm not an if I could you would you guy, and here I did was I caught myself teaching. Well, Mr. Client, if I get you out of your old car and get you into your new car, is that something you'd be interested in? Well, there's a lot of psychology involved with that. They bought a Honda because my sales associate told the client that they don't break. They're perfect. And what happens, they are not perfect. They break. When they come in, the last thing they want to do is hear a sales pitch. So all we simply did under your advice was we simply said when the client pulled up in their car, we complimented them on their car, and we simply asked them one thing: can we buy your car? We had 40 people that not only said could we buy their car, but they actually bought another car from us. And so we pulled out in addition. In addition to people, the look the book on that number was crazy. We ended up selling 40 cars out of there, and we end up buying an additional 10. I was looking at the data today.
So you ended up with 50 cars, Michael.
Right. We acquired 50. We acquired 50 cars.
And I just want to pause for a second. And first of all, none of that happened unless you have leadership and you've got a leader who is willing to fail, who is willing to say, maybe what we've been doing is a way, but maybe it's not the way. The second thing I want to call out is that in all the research I've done for multiple big groups across the country, in a Honda store, it's not unusual that the car you acquire contributes 2.5 to 4 times the gross of the average front and back of a car that you sell, whether it's new or used. So think about that.
Yeah.
He sold 40 cars, acquired 50 cars. Now the 50 is going to have a minimum of double the gross of the 40. So it's as if those 40 turned in, your P&L doesn't care where the money comes from as long as it's professional, legal, and ethical. That was the equivalent of 120 to 150 car deals from a gross perspective. Now, I don't know anywhere else in this business in the year 2024 you could do that. And if it's okay, I still have, I just pulled it up, this text message. It's hard to do it here in virtual, but this text message was literally, I was there Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday. You sent me a message that said, man, you remember in that previous month, you sold about 230 cars and acquired about 30. From Friday to Saturday, we had 49 opportunities, appraised 48 cars, took in 25 trades, took in almost as many trades in 2 days as they took in a month. Now we've said, well, what's next? 2 of the most powerful words, Michael. We took it out to service, and now that's happening in service. And is it fair to say we're not even close to done yet? You've got more to go, right?
Well, the other thing that we did, David, was we looked at our commission plan for our operations sales associates, And you asked me what the Mini was. I said, our Mini's 150. And what we did was, you said, why don't you double it if they have a trade-in? Well, of course, we're appraising more cars also, so we took in more cars that way also. Because I think what happens is the old school thought was a client comes into a dealership, and there's one process, and it's really not one process, it's two processes. What we learned was we're going to offer the client to buy their car. We're going to give them numbers to buy their car, and then we're going to give them numbers to buy our car. So it's literally two transactions, not one. And again, that's change. I mean, if you walk in and tell the average car guy, this is how we're going to do things, they're going to fight you because it's stinking thinking. I mean, doing things wrong and continuing wrong is not optimism. I think most car guys think that's optimism. It's freaking insanity. It is. So, I mean, I like to think that I'm green and growing. One of my mentors was a gentleman that we bought the store from, Mr. Sam Swope, and that was his favorite saying. Mm-hmm. He said, Mike, let me tell you something. Every day you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotten. And I like to think of myself as a person that's green and growing. I'm willing to learn something.
You're a true innovator. I say every day I wake up a light belt, and you personify that because, I also say, hey, one of the things I've noticed about great leaders, they never fall in love with their own ideas. They fall in love with results. They don't care who gets the credit. They just want to win, and they want to help their people win. And you mentioned something a little earlier, your message this morning for people that are not aware and who are not lucky enough to be on this list. I will share with anybody that reaches out. In fact, if it's okay, Michael, I'll send it out to everybody who registered. And you've got to get on this list because Michael sends out 5 days a week, every morning, 52 weeks a year. Doesn't matter if he's at a 20 group meeting, at a manufacturer meeting. If he's on vacation, these come out. And each morning is something that is incredibly thought-provoking. It's not auto-focused. It's thought-provoking. It's about being a great innovator, being a great leader, how to be a better version of you. Those types of messages, and they're incredibly profound. They cause me every time to start my morning before I start becoming a paramedic and reacting, responding. How about taking a minute and setting the tone for the day? And I have to thank you personally on behalf of every one of us that gets those messages, your commitment to do that. And also, and even better, these are not glib or cliche. These are things that you literally live with and you do and you execute every day. And I love how you also teach your people to do the same, because ultimately you're one of those dealers and leaders that you get a thrill when you see them succeed, and you're the last person who needs the spotlight on them. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's not about me. No, it's definitely not about me. The theme of the morning message is better every day. Because here's the thing, Darren Hardy wrote a book called The Compound Effect. I think the failure that most people make is they think if you exactly what I did yesterday, it's going to be the same. It's not, because the compound effect works in two directions, forward and backwards. Actually, if you come in today and you do the same thing you did yesterday, you're going backwards. So my goal is to get better every day. The other thing that Dave and I highly recommend to everybody, I do leadership coaching in my store, and I started doing that because I would go through to my social. I read an article many moons ago in the Harvard Business Review, and what it stipulated was that the average adult, regardless of their educational background, whether a GED, high school education, BS, MS, always up to a PhD, will never read a non-fictional book the rest of their life, and scared the living hell out of me. Because I'm thinking, well, the only way I can get better every day is by reading every day. So I go around and I start asking all my leaders. I say, hey, Bob, hey, what are you reading? You reading anything good? Well, no, I'm not reading anything. And I'm not trying to embarrass any of my associates, but 85% of them were not reading anything, let alone something, non-fictional. So I figured, well, what I'll do is I'm going to start a book club. And that's what we did. So we started a book club, and I was forcing them to read. And the book reports weren't written. They had to be done verbal. So nobody ever knew who was going to be called on that particular day. Therefore, everybody studied, and we've gotten better every day. But I got to give you kudos for it because I put a very, very high emphasis on retention, not client retention, associate retention.
Starts
when I first met you, I forget where we were at. Maybe it was Chicago or someplace like that. This business bourbon cigar event, and you were on the stage and you had some great success. I believe to this day you probably still to this day, and you've been out of business for what, 25 years. Had the most profitable dealership. It wasn't in a great area. I know where it was in California. You were landlocked, and I couldn't wait I couldn't wait to talk to you. And so I after the break, I went to you, and you immediately took me to school. I don't know if you remember what you told me. You said, Michael, you're concentrating on the wrong thing, because I was concentrating on the 25 million, and you actually told me, well, it's 30 because you paid $5 million out in bonuses. Wow, I would love to pay $5 million out in bonuses.
Right.
And I guarantee you, we'll get there someday soon. But you said, Michael, it's all about retention. I only turned 3% of my people over a 10-year period. Well, I mean, I got on the horn. I called my comptroller and I said, Vicki, do me a favor, get together with HR and tell me where we're at. And we were at like 28.6%.
I remember that.
Like, holy shit.
29%.
Yeah. And later on, I find out, well, NADA says the average dealer was at like 53. So, but good is the enemy of great. So everybody's, well, you're doing good. Well, I'm not interested in being good. I'm interested in getting great. So we put a full court press on that. So a lot of our success is because we're not turning over our associates. Yeah,
it's amazing. I believe I saw you just 2 years later. And the very first thing you said, other than a warm hello and a hug, is you said, hey, 8%. And that 28.6, but 29% got down to single digits. And I knew as soon as I heard that, I don't even need to ask you what happened with the money. It's going to go up because they're locked hand in hand. You could chase retention, customer retention all day long. Good luck if you don't have employee retention. You could chase client experience all day long and client satisfaction. Good luck if you don't have a high degree of associate satisfaction. So they are inextricably linked. You can't decouple those in any business. So my hat's off to you because, again, as I said at the top of this conversation, you're interested in getting better, just like your email says, better every day. And to get better every day, the big message I hear from you on the leadership front, is lead every day, but also read every day. Read every day, right? The average CEO, top CEO, 60 books a year, 60 nonfiction books a year, and the average human, if they're lucky, it's one. Crazy.
I did 41 last year, David. And here's the thing is, my favorite saying is, and I got a trademark pending on it right now, is simple gets done. So what I do is everything in my life, I put it in the simplest of terms. So what I do when I wake up in the morning, I read 5 pages every morning. It's simple to do. Anybody can read 5 pages. Before I go to bed at night, I read 5 pages. That's 10 pages. So the average, let's call it help book, okay, self-help book, is probably about 250 pages. I mean, do the math. Anyway, you slice or dice it, you're going to read 40 books. There's no way in the world you can read a self-help book and not get help and not get better every day. But I started that thread because I keep a journal, so I journal. So I was just journaling myself, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to share that with my team. And then what I did is as I met people like you, and I start sharing with them. I think we're up to close to 100 people right now, but I'd be more than happy to share it with everybody else.
Yeah, I'm gonna get everybody on that because, you would pay a lot of money, to get that kind of help. Of course, you could hit up Tony Robbins and pay him a few $1,000s. But the problem with that is, and I love Tony, certainly gone to a number of his classes, and so many, Tom Peters, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, countless, Dennis Whaley, tons of them, and every one of them was worth the price of admission. But here's the difference. When you go to those, for most people, it's evangelical in nature, which means you're going to go there, you're going to be inspired, You're going to be motivated. You're going to come home with big ideas, right? And big intentions. But like I always say, inspiration gets you to the starting block. That's it. It never gets you to the finish line. And what I love about what you're doing is it allows me to implement that into a daily regimen. And as we learn from powerful people like Jim Rohn, you change one thing in your life, turn it from a negative to a positive and add that to your regimen, life gets better. And you mentioned, 1% every day. I was doing some research on this, I don't know, the end of last year. And it turns out if you get 1% better every day, it works out to being 37x by the end of the year. I don't know anybody that would not be delighted with 37x. So let's say Joe Verde style, hey, cut it in half. It's 18. Hey, cut it in half. Now it's 9 times, cut it in half one more time. You're still 5 times better. And all of that starts with intention and reading and becoming a better leader every day. And that's fantastic. So Michael,
you brought up Jim Rohn. You brought up Jim Rohn. I remember every year, the very first day of every year, I listened to Best Year Ever. Jim Rohn always stipulated that every rich person has one room in their own, a library. So I mean, anybody that's listening to this, you want to become rich, start reading, start building your own library.
Here's an idea. Tell me what you think about this. I had years and years ago, people said, "Hey, you don't need anything. What can I get you for the holidays? Or what can I get you for birthday?" Well, of course, my first response is, "Don't. Please, I'd rather let's just get together. That would be way better." Right? You don't have to wrap it. I don't have to unwrap it. And we could just hang out, and that's something we'll have for the rest of their lives. But what I've always said is, if anybody ever wants to send me anything, and I've gotten countless of them since then, but if you ever want to send me something, send me your favorite book in your entire life, and just simply open it up, write a note. And so my vision was to I build that library, and I've got that library, but build it. And I know that every book on that shelf, Michael, is somebody's favorite book that was transformational for them. And it was also like,
it's a great idea.
Such a big deal to them, meant something to them. And I could look at every book and I know who this one. How great is that? Somebody taught me that 100 years ago. I'll pass that on to you.
Well,
Michael.
So now you know what you're getting for Christmas. You blew it.
Okay. I love it. I can't wait. Michael, so let's focus. Let's turn back this thing around as we head up towards the top of the hour. Used cars. When we talked about our penchant for not wanting to change, our hesitation to change, our fear of failure, which is so misunderstood and misdirected. It turns out fear is the secret to failure, right? You can't get there without it. But as it pertains to that, you do a number of things that are very, very different that have honestly allowed some of this transformation to take place. And one of those is you're always open to new tools. So you've had tools in your repertoire, Kelly Blue Book, Instant Cash Offer, vAuto, and some other really good tools out there. But if there's something that's going to give your people a competitive advantage, if it's going to allow your people to achieve that goal of appraising more, because for anybody out there, you want to sell more, you got to appraise more. That's what Michael is referring to. And you bring on a tool, and you're not really focused on yourself. Is this going to help my people? And is it going to help my people do a better job of helping my clients? And so one of those things you brought on was AccuTrade. I remember sitting in the service drive and hitting there. I had logged in with your thing, and bam, 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 hit these things. The average dealer, I was with a group of 60 different dealers in LA a few weeks ago. I said, how long does it take you on average, honestly, to do an appraisal? It was the dealers and the used car managers. The average was 30 minutes in appraisal. Wow. Public enemy number one for any client is time, right? They value time, as crazy as it sounds, more than money. And so can you imagine having to sit there for 30 minutes, sometimes longer, because a human has to appraise the car when there's no way that human can possibly do a better job than technology. CarMax, Carvana, The technology appraises the car, the human inspects the car. We do the opposite. We insist the humans got to appraise the car. So, as you are bringing in advanced tools and technology into your business, has that made a difference both for your people and your clients and your ability to help them get that valuation faster?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, David, one of the oldest adages in the world is time's money, right? Now, I mean, not only to the client, but also to us. Again, going back, simple gets done, and the process is simple. Anybody can do it. Chances are it's taking 30 minutes in the average store because they're depending on a appraiser or a buyer to do it. Well, I mean, we appraised on Saturday. We appraised 63 cars back in our service department. It was done by a combination of our service advisors and our vehicle upgrade specialist.
So hold on, wait. For everybody watching, not appraiser, no used car manager, no used car buyer needed. Okay, the technology, the advanced technology does this, and you know how thrilling that is. Not just for your people who are now empowered, who feel more professional, more knowledgeable. They don't have to say, "Oh wait, I'm going to get my appraiser Bob. Give me a minute. Hey, go sit here." They say, "Yeah, I can do that for you." But how great for the client too. To do 60 appraisals in a active shop, and you do what, 100 appraisal? 100 ROs a day.
We do. We average about 141 a day.
141. Okay, so you're doing 45% of those ROs live during the course of the day without holding people up. True?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we go in there and we measure it. And here's the beautiful thing is, every day we know exactly how many people are back there that we can lower their payment. We know how many clients have equity. We know how many clients are end of lease. So, you come in, we compliment you on your car, and it could be a car that is not perfect. And the clients will go, "Well, geez, do you want to buy my car?" Well, yeah, we have folks that are looking for transportation cars, starter-ups for their kids, fixer-ups for their kids. So so the key is, if you're going to buy, you got to buy them all.
Appraise them all, buy them all, keep the ones that make sense for you. True? Fair? And you just shot a thought in my brain, which I think is incredibly impactful, Michael. I just think about this, anybody watching this. Normally, we have to have somebody somehow, some way, phone call, walk in, internet lead, but somehow, normally, they have to walk in the store. They have to be greeted effectively. They have to have a salesperson who doesn't pre-qualify them too soon, guess the buyer. They have to have somebody who gets them to the point where they are able to show them a car, present a car, demonstrate a car, write the deal up in the showroom, and now I have a shot of maybe appraising that car. Now here's the other way, the way that Michael's doing it. Guess what? They're not looking for a car. No problem. We could buy it. They're coming to lease in. We could buy it. They're thinking about this. They could buy it. Every single human that walks in is an opportunity to acquire a car. So instead of spending an insane amount of money in billboards everywhere and advertising everywhere, hey, we want you to come into our store. Think about this. Michael, you've got 140 people a day. Think about this, 140 people a day. So 40 to 20, you have about 3,400 repairers a month, roughly?
Yes.
Think about this, everybody. He's got over 3,000 people a month voluntarily bringing their car in as a potential acquisition, in addition to probably well over 1,000 sales opportunities. Is that true?
Yes. And they have,
crazy.
They have what we want. And, we have what they want. So it's a win-win situation. And bear in mind, David, we're not looking to steal any cars. You mentioned AccuTrade. No. AccuTrade is a very nice tool. AccuTrade can actually make you look like a hero because, as you and I said in previous conversations, I think they're hitting cars a little too light. See, what I want to do is I want I want to pay all the money all the time. I'm not looking to steal any vehicles. It's got to be a win-win situation. Whenever you enter into a transaction with a client or associate or anybody in life, it's got to be a win-win situation. Greed's a killer, so you just can't get greedy. And you have to get a position where you can buy every car. Why would you not? I mean, CarMax is doing it. Carvana is doing it. Why the hell aren't we? I mean, we'd have to be crazy not to.
So, Michael, you were just saying,
That's my honest
that
opinion.
at times you get AccuTrade and you go, okay, I'm going to look at this value and it's less than maybe I would have hit the car. But you were just saying that AccuTrade actually allows you, if you look at it the right way, to make you look like a hero. I show that, I show that appraised value and you go, listen, I'm going to give you 500 more, or 1,000 more, 1,200 more. And it's interesting. I spoke to Bob Hollinshead, who created AccuTrade. And I said, Bob, it seems sometimes like it's $1,000 less, $1,500 less than I would pay for a car. And he says, well, David, he says, I'm your plan, and I'm talking about his guaranteed offers, right? He said, I'm your plan B. I'm not your plan A. I'm not supposed to be your plan A. You're supposed to buy the car. That's plan A. And second of all, you can and should step up for that car. I just know that if you had that car 60 or 90 days from now and didn't merchandise it, recon it, price it right, and now I end up with that car, that number I put on it was the right number. So it's really important for me to mention this to everybody. And I want you to continue with that thought, because you hit something really critical. We're not supposed to rip people's cars. Hey, I'm going to rip this for $2,000 under, $3,000 under. We'll make extra gross. First of all, that never happens. Second of all, if you're obsessed with the client experience, in nowhere in a great client experience is ripping my car or stealing my car. So it's very important to listen to what Michael's about to say about, listen, you want to step up on every car. That's what you were saying, right, Michael? Yep. All the money, all the time. And the other thing is one other thing I wanted to mention, everybody. This is somebody that their average turn rate is 14 to 15, 16, maybe 18 days at times. Okay, so listen. Okay, but I know that there's been months, because I've seen the numbers and the composite in your numbers, in your system, that it's been 14, 15 days. But even in 19 days, I want people to think about this. First of all, if you're going to turn your cars in an average of 19 days, that means you're going to turn your inventory 19 times annually. But there's something way more important than that. It means you can step up for every car. It means you could be competitive with CarMax or Carvana all day long, because you're not the person, you're not a dealership saying, well, we typically take 45, 60 days, so I'm going to have to knock this for a book change. No. You guys have a mindset. If you take my car in today, in less than 3 weeks, that car is gone. Is that fair to say? For a pretty good amount of money. Michael, what's your average reconditioning per car? 14, 15?
All the money, all the time, David. All the time.
All right, so everybody think about this. You have 1,500 in F&I. You have 1,300 in recon. That's 28. Say you only make 500 in the front.
As of today,
okay, that's $3,300. And there's more money. Dock fee, delivery, hard packs, whatever. So let's just say $4,000 a copy, and you're doing that 19 times in a year. That's $76,000. Now, for a store that takes an average turn of 45 or 60 days in a year, they're only going to be able to do that 6 times. And so when you look at 6 times with the same numbers, it's $24,000. Michael's way of doing things is a 300% improvement in annual ROI. And we say this all the time, everything counts. So, we just got done talking about acquisition. We just got done talking about reconditioning, and we're going to talk about some other elements in the pre-owned department that are equally important. But what we've heard today from you, Michael, is innovation matters, reinvention matters,
exactly.
being willing to fail
the
matters.
average days of inventory right now is
Leadership
21
matters.
days.
Reading to get better. That dedication to wake up every better 1%
But here's the thing
better
is if you
matters.
buy the car right,
And this
if you
obsession
recondition the car
that you
right,
have with both your associates and your clients matter.
if it's got a pretty
and when
price,
you can
pretty
combine
picture,
those things
pretty description,
with the things that we're talking about today,
it's
magic
it's pretty good chance that it's going to go quick.
I love it.
Well,
I love it.
You
Well,
know,
listen,
the thing is, again,
I can't
you don't
thank
want to
you
be
enough
greedy because
for taking the time to join me. I hope you don't mind,
but
if
the price of the car
going
is right,
forward, I'll send you my
it's
favorite
going
book
to
too.
turn other
And by the
revenue
way,
stream.
sometimes that's subject to change because like this year, man, I've read a lot of really good books, but Will Goddard's Unreasonable Hospitality just sticks in my brain right now.
On a non-certified
I love 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
$1,313.
Of course, I have all-time favorites as well. Good to Great, that's one of my favorites of all time. But I have a book that says, do one thing that scares you every day. I've got another book that's called Non-Obvious. I think it was Rohit Bhargava I met at South by Southwest, non-auto conference, tech conference. But to your point with business, bourbon, and cigars, you can learn anywhere. You can learn innovation anywhere. I love it. It's so funny you say that. There's some people in our industry who have written some really meaningful books. I've got Jason Rice's WTF. I've got Mile One by Ed Roberts, right? There's some really good books out there from people within our own industry. There's one on fear dynamics by Stephen Dietrich, best M&A attorney in the country in retail automotive. And every one of these is incredible value. One of the things I've also done with every single person, I've said, hey, if you've written a book, I'm going to buy 30 and I'm going to give them out to whoever hits me up first. So I will tell you, anybody that's watching this, it's called The Sun and the Salt. Is that right? Be the sun, not the salt. So hit me up for Be the Sun, not the Salt. I haven't even read this book myself, but if Michael Porro and Ed Roberts says it's good, it's gold. So if you hit me up.
Wow.
I love it. Well, in turn, the first 30 people that hit me up, I will send you a copy directly from Amazon. I'll do the same for Ed Roberts' book, Mile One, Leadership, just because, Ed is as good as it gets. And if you haven't looked up Ed Roberts and you haven't looked up Bozard Ford Lincoln and what they've accomplished, that's at a whole different level when it comes to people and their university and everything else.
Our good friend,
Michael Porro,
one of the best fixed operations directors,
such a pleasure to speak with you. It's always such a learning experience. I want to thank you for taking the time.
Sorry, it's read that says "Be the sun, not the salt."
Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day
highly
to give us the
everybody.
time to hear your perspectives, thoughts, strategies, and insights
30
on
copies
how we could take everything we've learned about used cars today and supercharge it. Thank you so much, my friend. All the best to you. Thank you. Thank you. Take care, guys. Thanks so much. Stay tuned. We've got another session coming up next.